Beth, you carry on.
Excellent. Look at this. Changing my papers too. Now we're talking
Seamless.
about diversity again, diversity, we talk about it all the time, but the reality is it's good business. And so we want to talk about how that affects your business and what you can do about it if you want to either expand your workforce or expand your fan base. It's something that's critical for this business, and I'm so glad that we as an industry have really figured that out, because again, it's for the future health of our sport. We need more people to be watching, more people to be buying tickets to come to venues. And ideally, one of the ways that we've been doing that is by getting more people into the paddock, working in the paddock, because now it seems far more relatable for that person watching at home or watching in the grandstands, because it all matters, so that we can be racing for years to come. So with us today we have Brooke Bond from Bosch Motorsport US and Dicky Riegel from Lime Rock Park. And the reason why I selected both of these panelists is because Brooke, with working with Bosch this year, they have done some very really proactive events, some progressive events, ideally to try to get women into racing, but really ideally so that they could perhaps be future employees of Bosch. So very smartly, very strategically put together some interesting events that may continue, but it's to introduce people to our industry, because it might be something that people had never considered, and really exposing them to what the career paths may be within motorsport itself. And Dicky Riegel is the president of Lime Rock Park, and has been very supportive of Women in Motorsport North America from the beginning, has been on our working group, but this year announced that Lime Rock Park is our regional hub for women in motorsport. And Dicky has really invested time and imagination into supporting getting more women into the sport, to support his venue and the series that do race at Lime Rock Park throughout the year. So Brooke, we'll start with you. Just give us a little bit of a quick background of just what you did right before Bosch, so it puts in perspective for the viewers of why you have what adds to your perspective in the role you're in now with Bosch Motorsport.
Definitely. So thanks again for having me join the conversation. And prior to joining Bosch, I had worked on an all-women's off-road rally in Morocco, the Rally Aisha de Gazelle. And then I joined a group of British motorsport brands that were expanding their market to the US. So those Ginetta, Bowler, and the Ariel Atom. So I was very involved into motorsports, and now within Bosch, I can kind of continue that and really understand what Bosch is doing to widen the circle and really educate people on what the motorsport industry has to offer, the many different careers and opportunities, both here in the US and globally.
Absolutely. Thank you. And Dicky, you've been at Lime Rock now for a couple of years. You want to just tell a little bit of what you did before owning a racetrack, and kind of what brings you with us today for being our WIMNA regional hub?
Yeah, thanks so much, Beth, and great to see you again, Brooke. We were all together just a couple of weeks ago out in Arizona for that fabulous Women in Motorsports North America Summit. Had the opportunity to meet so many fantastic people. So, in meeting all of them, it really adds luster and validates Lime Rock Park's decision to become a real partner with WIMNA. So looking forward to all that opportunity. My background, I was in the RV industry with a company called Airstream, and also Thor Industries, its parent company. But also founded my own little my travel business, Airstream To Go, immediately before having the opportunity with two fellow partners, Charles Mallory and Bill Rickert, to work together in partnership with Skip Barber, the legendary Skip Barber, to purchase Lime Rock Park. And we did that April 1st, 2021. So now building on Skip's unbelievable legacy and all of his stewardship to become the next stewards of this historic facility. So looking forward to all that opportunity ahead.
Yeah, and doing a fantastic job, I may say. So let's just we're talking about diversity for business, and again, the knock-on effect of why that has value. We know that we've seen reports that companies with diverse boards perform better. But what do you think the value of diversity is at your company? So, Brooke, when you talk about just diversity, why do you think diverse teams perform better?
It really comes down to decision making and the pace of this industry overall. When you kind of have to be, whether you like it or not, or no matter how much level of preparation you put into a race or a season, there's always unforeseen issues that come up. There's always a lot of people fighting for your attention and for many different reasons, and to be able to problem solve with a mix of options, just diversity feeds that. We all have different backgrounds. We all have, so much to offer, and to have a diverse kind of decision-making table really feeds that quick decision-making process, and, to assess the situation, learn from your decisions, and then kind of repeat on that again, and to be strategic, but also have your ears open wide, and to really make sure that, everyone a part of that conversation has a seat and a voice at the table.
Yeah, and a different experience, right? Different diversity of thought is going to give you maybe ideas or solutions you wouldn't have considered because you had that different lens. And so somebody on your team might have seen a pitfall before, right? That you might not have. And so it's nice to kind of hear different voices, especially when you're setting strategy, to your point. Dicky, what do you think the value of diversity is? So again, I know we say it, we throw the word around, and you and I talked about this, that right now people think that it could just mean women, but when you look at something like Lime Rock, you have a twofold uh, challenge because you have your own staff and you want to make sure that you have the best staff possible for your own setting of strategy and execution of operations, but you also have a fan base that you need to cultivate, and you need to get people to come to your venue. So when you talk about diversity, you kind of have a two-pronged thing. So how do you, in everything that you're doing in future planning for Lime Rock, where does diversity sit in your strategy?
Yeah, I don't know how many times are on that fork, that all the inputs that we have with so many, not just the fan base, but our competitors, participants, our EMS providers, the sanctioning bodies. We're so many different things at this little operation in the northwest corner of Connecticut, which under the term diversity, may be a less diverse community inherently. So we have our challenges, but to me, diversity, is really about recognizing that great input and perspective comes from anywhere. And if all of us, and I'll say, even selfishly for Lime Rock Park, we're all built around growth. How do we expand, our opportunity as an industry around motorsports, and how do we involve more and more people? Because that growth is only possible if we talk to new people. Our partner at IMSA, John Doonan, said it on Tuesday during the EPARTRADE conference here at Industry Week, that even with all of IMSA's amazing growth in 2023, their objective for 2024 is to build the new audience, build our future. And so input at Lime Rock Park comes from everywhere. And if we stifle it, if we stifle that input, we stifle that participation, we're really doing ourselves a disservice. It really helped us drive our partnership with WIMNA, and sure, it's a wonderful thing to be associated with this unbelievably dynamic organization, WIMNA, but yet it only comes to real life at Lime Rock Park about how we integrate it into every single day. So that means employees, means new relationships throughout the industry, new relationships with our fans, new relationships with merchandise, and all those things help build a more rich experience for everybody at a venue like Lime Rock.
And let's be clear, like venues around the country, all track venues, you have sponsors and that help support the ongoing operations of tracks. So when you have a broader fan base, that also then broadens the opportunities that you have for different sponsors that you can then talk to, because then they can start to see their customer base fitting in with yours. If you're very siloed, it also then limits your sponsorship opportunities. So again, when we say this is, good for business, those are the ways that it manifests. You could start talking to companies that might have, within Connecticut, which is, probably the second or third smallest state in the union. There's still companies that are here that have never been to Lime Rock Park, but as using that as an example for other venues around the country, that the more that you widen the draw of what's going on at your venue, the more sponsors that you then have access to, and who would seek, would be able to receive value by being partnered with you. Now, so we know why
all the
that,
little things matter, and it
Yeah.
is that full wheel, Beth, that you're talking about. So you can't make really mistakes anywhere along the way, because if you disenfranchise any participant, you'll hear about it, particularly through social media, and all of a sudden, that'll be a little chink in the armor where somebody will have a doubt about, if Lime Rock Park didn't do something right, is that going to be worse for me? So we have to really focus on the little things, and little things can be really big opportunity for a lot of people as we talk about diversity in our industry.
And one thing too, I know that, people want to do the right thing, and they don't necessarily know where to start. So we're going to talk a little bit about how to put an event together, like kind of, all right, now what do we do about it? We all agree it matters. We all agree it's good business, but now what? Like, what's a way to kind of start small and kind of put one foot in front of the other? I think the thing to remember too is it's okay to make mistakes. You're going to make mistakes, but the idea is, ask questions, be vulnerable. I know, Dicky, you have had an experience which has been fantastic, where you have a driver who is a quadriplegic, actually, who is Torsten Gross, who started at an HPDE day at Lime Rock, totally got the racing bug, has now been racing. In fact, I think last week was down in Coda racing. But I think, didn't he also kind of help you with some of the accessibility questions that might happen at a racetrack, where now all of a sudden you've got somebody who's basically helping to consult and have that perspective that you're not going to think about as readily as somebody like Torsten would.
Yeah, thanks so much, Beth, for mentioning Torsten Gross and the Just Hands Foundation. So, Torsten is wheelchair bound, and yet being in a race car is something that completely frees him, because then he's able to compete and participate in a fully abled way. And Torsten's perspective, just like any perspective that I just mentioned at Lime Rock, is an opportunity for us to grow. We realized that, even with the beautiful condition of the park, we had poor ADA compliance. And so even our main concession stand wasn't really accessible. So boom, there's our next major, capital project, not dictated by Torsten, but influenced by him. I'll mention another thing, not to embarrass Torsten, but he had a little off-piste experience in his Porsche this summer, and everything fine. But we realized that, our EMS services, we had to invest in some new Armco, some new barriers and things that made it possible for our EMS company to better service not just a disabled driver or with a Just Hands participant, but everybody at Lime Rock Park. So again, that input comes from everywhere.
Absolutely. Well, very well said. So if we say that we know the why, so let's talk about the how. So I know, Brooke, you and Bosch, you were part of the team that put together these wonderful events that were kind of like a racing 101. And I think that's has been really a lovely way to introduce people. But I think let's talk a little bit about what the events were, and then kind of things that maybe people that are listening could mimic and do in their own part of the country. And certainly, again, as I like to say, let's copy off each other's notes. We're getting best practices here, and we don't need to reinvent the wheel. And let's talk about the success and failure of these events, and kind of, so what was it, and how did you promote it, and where did you find the participants?
Definitely. So the event series that Beth is referencing is something we self-titled as Electrify Your Career in Motorsports. And we
Get
did
it,
one.
Bosch, get it. It's fantastic.
We did one with in partnership with Formula E at the Portland race this past year. And then we continued the concept in the IMSA paddock for the Indianapolis Speedway race earlier in September, I believe. And we reached out to local schools, kind of professors from a wide range of specialties, obviously touching on engineering and any Formula SAE teams, or really anyone we could find with engineering background, and said, promote this or pass this on to any of your students who are interested in motorsport. And any women in particular that, want to find another route to learn what the opportunities are within motorsport, and to see, what they can begin to educate themselves on to get into the industry. So we produce these events with, half of them are kind of workshop visioning exercises to help them define what success means to them. And then the other half was to introduce them to other women in the paddock who, when they started their careers, they were the only women in the paddock. And, how did they start to, dive deeper into their expertise? How did they learn more about the industry, what they need to perform better, and just walked these kind of college-age students through the career path that a lot of these people had throughout the paddock, because no two paths are the same.
Right.
To note Dicky's earlier mention at our panel at WIMNA, and we need to highlight those stories, because a lot of times we see people who have succeeded in the industry are, the fallacy is that their path was straight, when in fact, we all had a lot of different things to pull us into where we are today. So that's how we recruited for the event. And then we followed up with all the participants on, all the internships that are available throughout the paddock, and with the different teams and the different classes within IMSA in particular, just opens you up to a very wide range of opportunities. And
to be fair though, too, that, like shameless, realistically, because you're looking for candidates that may eventually work for Bosch, and that's okay. It's a great way to, and sometimes, years ago, it would be that companies would be hesitant to do things, a lot of outreach to students, because they might not be ready to work for your company just yet. So that there is a little bit of this is not a direct ROI measurement necessarily all the time. And so how do you find that budget, or how do you find the strength corporately for larger companies to invest in these events? Because sometimes, you might, again, you hosted 25 women. What if none of them come work for Bosch? Does it still have value? Because, to your point, it's a circuitous path. Maybe they might work for Bosch 10 years from now. So
definitely.
how do you convince management that this matters?
Mm-hmm. And just to allocate time for it is always the hardest part. And so that's where we're focusing on the pipeline, and we understand that not a lot of young girls are encouraged to jump back into a go-kart, or not many young girls are encouraged to tear apart home appliances, and to see what they like to do, and to understand how that applies in the real world and for their careers. So I appreciate Bosch's stance of, we don't have any targets of diversity, but we're intentional with the dollars that we do have, and to keep, encouraging that pipeline, whether it is 5-10 years out of when they might be able to join us in the office, still building that pipeline and educating the girls on those opportunities, and, uncovering the Easter eggs that they wouldn't find from a Google search, or, scraping LinkedIn, is to really give them those real life opportunities and contacts for them to grow into their next stage. So it's definitely felt from a corporate standpoint as just to seed and help develop that pipeline, and to learn on it year after year. Well, this was the first year, so I'm sure we'll do it better next year.
Brooke, you mentioned
I think the key word that you said is intentional too. I think the intentional part is key.
Yeah, you had mentioned, Brooke, convincing. You don't have to convince management at Bosch, and we felt that you were involved in the WIMNA Power Hour at Bosch, excuse me, at Lime Rock this summer. But if you look around at even within our industry, I think leaders that are widely respected, whether it's Roger Penske or Doug Bowles at Indianapolis Motor Speedway, Connie Nyholm at VIR, within our road racing industry council, these are leaders that that deliberately look for input outside of just their management team. And I know we try to do the same thing within the management team at Little Lime Rock, that we look for that input anywhere. Long gone, I think, are the days when even as talented a leader as a Doug, a Connie, or a Roger, because of their acumen, they could be myopic. They could just do it, and they would kind of do things right. That kind of leadership is long gone. We're talking about you must be inclusive, and as I said before, diversity isn't just a race or a creed or something. We have to look to the future. We have to look to youth. We have to look to people who have never participated in the industry before, because they will all influence our greater opportunity ahead. So I just feel like it's a diversity of opinion, diversity of perspective that makes our entire industry that much stronger.
That's such a great point, because I think that's the other thing that we need to kind of again outline here is when we throw the word around, but it can mean a few different things. It could literally mean that, let's say you're doing your 2024 planning for what arc of the events are on your calendar, and when you should have that junior person, and these are big planning meetings. I'm not talking about financial investment of the kind of board meetings that you have. I'm talking about the general planning that you have. Make sure that when you look around the table, it's a mix of your team. And that way you've got the veterans who have wonderful wisdom and have kind of seen a lot of things. And then you have those fresh eyes. And it's that diversity around the table of having that mix of ages and experience, because there might be a creative idea. And you always hear that, oh, well, we've always done it this way. Ideally, we're saying that less and less. Just because something might not have worked years ago doesn't mean it might not work now. You have to take into consideration that times and things evolve. And so when we say the word diversity, we don't just think it's just women, it's just people of color. No. It's meaning it could be people having different backgrounds, like Brooke having a different career path behind you. Like we were showing, I think that was one of the wonderful things about that event, especially at the IMSA event at Indianapolis Motor Speedway in September, because it was a little bit it was a 2-day event, so it was a little bit broader content. That, let's say we had 15 different people over the course of these 2 days speak to these women. Some of them had worked in completely different industries and then found their way to motorsport. And it's interesting that's that light bulb moment for young people to realize, even if you don't do this right away, you can do this 10 years from now, and that you still have value. So when you look at what you're going to do for 2024, how do you intentionally, what do you have on the docket for 2024 to expand your fan base? I mean, we want to make sure that, Dicky, starting with you, that we want to make sure that Lime Rock is a place where everybody sees themselves. How do you reach your audience and communicate that?
Our 2024 planning, really began day one, back in 2021, and we were fortunate, again, calling out a fellow, Race Industry Week participant, Chris Stewart from Grid Life. We were able to establish a partnership with Grid Life that now going into our 3rd year in 2024, with another already prescribed year ahead in 2025. Lime Rock Park is one of the oldest facilities in the country, and Grid Life is the youngest grid in racing, and a diverse and inclusive community in and of itself. So the lesson for us was to not just focus inwardly, on our fan base and on the people that are around us in the Northeast Metroplex at Lime Rock Park, but to deliberately attach ourselves to the opportunity to partner with an up-and-coming and wonderful group of people like we have at Grid Life, an entirely new fan base. Year one, 80% roughly of those Grid Life fans that came to Lime Rock Park were brand new, had never been to Lime Rock Park before. And that's magic for us.
That's absolutely huge. I mean, that's a staggering number. And how did that relationship start? Did they call you? Did you call them? How did you find
Well,
them?
I've got to give credit to our other partner, FCP Euro, the online auto parts partner at Lime Rock Park, wonderful organization. They made the introduction, and it was just the perfect fit. And we're so proud of our partnership with Grid Life and of course with FCP Euro.
And this is why a healthy ecosystem really behooves, really helps all of us. And so whether it's, Bosch supporting and creating an event that then is bringing in people, again, you're attracting, Brooke, with what you guys put together with this Electrify Your Career in Motorsport, you are reaching a university audience that may be fans, but didn't really realize that there might have been a race event coming up in their backyard that they could attend because it wasn't necessarily on their radar, and then they meet people and it expands. But that's a wonderful example, Dicky, where again you have a sponsor that's very much in the wheelhouse, but then it winds up growing laterally. And I think that's the magic of our industry, and it's always sort of evolving that way. But I think the most important thing we want to take away from this is that diversity is meaning diversity of thought, diversity of perspective, and that you can do this by being intentional, and it's good for business because we all need more people to love the sport that we love. Brooke, any closing thoughts on what you have planned for the future and where you see everything going?
Our mission statement internally is still to be intentional about making a difference and inspiring the next generation, and keep giving resources to that future pipeline, and to ask them for feedback and to continue to iterate on what we've started. So very much looking forward to 2024 and several other events with WIMNA and the entire community. So
excellent.
A huge thank you to EPARTRADE and Racer. What a great event, and I know you're coming to the home stretch here, so thank you for including all of us.
Thank you, Dicky. It means a lot. And actually, the next hour, we're going to be talking to EPARTRADE, and we're going to travel to Argentina to talk about the TC2000, which is a fabulous racing series down south.
Registering on EPARTRADE is easy. To start, click on the Join for Free button on the homepage. First, search your company to see if it's already in our database. If you see your company on the list, click on it to select it. Then, choose Claim Company if you are one of the decision makers, an owner, marketing person, or main company contact. Or choose Join Company if you are an employee, and press Continue. If you couldn't find your company in our database, select Register a New Company. On the following page, fill out your name, email, phone number, job title, and choose a secure password. If you chose Register a New Company, you'll need to choose your business type. Select Supplier if you're looking to display products or services and connect with buyers. Choose Racing Business if you're looking to source new parts and connect with suppliers. Choose Race Team if you own or are a member of a professional race team. Then, enter your company name. Please provide a website, Facebook page, or LinkedIn if you have one, and choose to either claim or join the company. You can view and agree to our terms of use here. If you'd like to receive our weekly newsletter, choose Accept. Finally, click Register Now and your registration will be submitted for approval. An email will be sent to your inbox. Please confirm your email address and you will be approved shortly. Welcome to EPARTRADE.